Motion and a second on that item. Could we have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 3 is our annual report from Public Works on our county solid waste plan. We have Mr. Tim Nick and my good buddy from Operation Brightside, Kirk Souther. Welcome.
Thank you. As you're aware that we're required by KDEG to have a solid waste plan. And each year we need approval of the commission of the plan.
You turn your mic on. You turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry. So Kirk's here with the minor changes.
Like Tim said, this is an annual review that we make. We basically look at the infrastructure of the solid waste in the county. There were two changes. This is for the year 2016. There are two changes that we had in the solid waste system. One was the city of Bonner, or of Edwardsville, has now done curbside recycling and also automated trash pickup. So that's one change. And the second change in the system was USD 500 quit their drop-off of paper recycling of all their bins in 2016 because it was going to start costing them money. So that was another change in the system. And as a result of that change, we have, in 2017, we've reopened the recycle center at 3241 Park Drive. So we're accepting both yard waste and recycling Thursday through Sunday, 10 to 3. So as a result of us looking at the solid waste system reduction in the recycling, a decision was made to give some more service for the curbside or for the drop-off recycling.
All right, and it has to, this is a report that we file annually, correct, with the state?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments?
To approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the public county solid waste plan. Could we have roll call?
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye.
Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Item number 4. Proposed revisions to County Emergency Operations Plan. Item number 4 relates to debris management, and we have Matt May here.
Good evening.
Hello.
We would like approval of the debris management plan. This is an important document for us because it clears the way for not only guiding us on how to properly do debris management, and we've had plenty of practice at it lately, to the credit of the Public Works folks and all those folks that support them, but also it helps us assure that we qualify for any federal reimbursement that might be available. And we are still in that process, by the way. We're waiting for the presidential declaration decision to be made.
On the summer storms.
This will help having this in place and having it new and revised. And,
okay.
And like all of these documents, it's a working document. It will be revised as we go, but this gives us a good starting point. And I want to take a minute to introduce Nathan Wickman, who is interning in our office, but he had wrote the majority of this plan and helped put this together and work closely with Jeff Fisher and his teams to make sure that it meets their practices and also meets the federal guidelines.
Great. Thank you.
Move to approve.
All right. On that item, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Call. Bryant.
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye.
Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. And now we have your revision to the county emergency operation plan as it relates to your base plan.
Correct. So as we've been doing this over the last 15 months or so, we've been bringing you one emergency support function section at a time. This is the cover piece, if you will, for what will be the final plan. My intentions are at the moment to bring that to you in your December 7th meeting. In the meantime, we will have an opportunity for public input. We are scheduling that for November 8th out at the NRC so that the public can put any input they want to in this. We're just about ready once we pass through this step to put it out publicly on the website as a draft and get that input so that they can have an opportunity to review the pertinent sections for them. I do have a quick question about procedurally. All of this document is under a resolution that asks for substantive changes to be brought to you. I want to point an opportunity out for me to get clarification on that. And that is that there is, on each of these ESFs, there's a cover sheet that lists a coordinating agency, a primary agency, a support agency, and we've got a few that have a other category. I would like to reassign those in some form or fashion because I don't have any explanation for what other means. I want to see if that's all right with you folks to do it that way, or do I need to bring it back to you as part of full commission? In other words, I'm looking for a definition of substantive. The content will be there, it's just going to be in a different place.
It doesn't seem to me it would need to come back.
Okay.
Look into our admins and legal.
No, I think that could be changed
Okay.
Okay.
before full commission, given the resolution.
It's just it's more elaborate than formatting, but it's not a change in policy.
Okay.
It's just a definition change.
And I believe on the, on this item, we also need a motion and a vote.
Correct.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If I could have roll call on this item.
Roll call, Bryant.
Aye.
Parkway,
Aye.
Kane. Johnson.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye, and that motion carries. So,
I have one more item to point out to you. Emmerich was kind enough to pass out to you a copy just this morning, and I apologize it came in late. We did get final approval of the entire document from the state's perspective. It meets all of their criteria. So when we bring it to you, that step will already be passed. All we have to do is send them back the resolution when we're done adopting it and the two cities adopt it, and we'll be completely finished with this for 5 years, I promise.
so you will have you will place the whole document on the website, have a public comment time, and then even a special day.
Correct. We will have an in-person meeting that anybody wants to in the evening at 7 p.m. at the NRC on the 8th of November. The public will be invited to come in, give us any feedback that they have. If it creates a change, we'll bring that to you in December as part of the entire document.
All right, we're closing in on it.
Awesome. Close.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
We have one more item on our agenda tonight, and that is a report from Public Works on our 2018 CMIP projects. And we have Brent Thompson here. And thank you so much. Staff here ready to make a presentation for us. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We are here today to bring an update on the 2018 CMIP as it was approved back in July. To my right is Brandon Grover, who is the manager of our asset management program, and to his right is Trenton Fogelsong with Water Pollution Control. Brandon's going to navigate us through this, and we will chime in when needed. Brandon?
Thank you, Brent. Good evening, Commissioners. We wanted to start off by showing you something you've seen several times before, and this is how we've looked at our CMIP structure in the past. We prioritize our projects based on really 4 main categories. Those are maintenance activities and major rehabs, legal mandates, economic opportunities that involves grants or special assessments, and also community and citizen involvement. We wanted to highlight this to you because this has been the way we've done things for so long. But with the advent of the asset management ideology, we are looking to change this a little bit, and we'll be giving you guys input. But when we bring projects to you in the future, there will be a much more holistic type project that involves several different pieces and not really just engineering and public works. It'll involve other utilities and other pieces within the community. We wanted to give you several of the larger projects you'll be seeing going on starting in spring and going through all of next year. The first one, of course, is Leavenworth Road. Phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 actually just bid last week and actually came in slightly under our estimate, so we're looking in really good shape there. That's anticipated to begin construction starting spring. So all the utility work's wrapping up now, and you will get major construction going on then. We'll actually have a dedicated website to the Leavenworth Road project that we can address people to, and we'll actually have that on signs out along Leavenworth Road so people can easily navigate to those. Phase 2 is the next big portion from 63rd to 78th. We'll continue to update that as we get more information along the website as well. This project includes several different things. The biggest ones will be inclusion of sidewalk and a little bit reconfiguration of some of the lanes to include for other amenities along the Parkway. The other big project we're finally getting to is the Hutton Road improvements. This will continue on from where the last phase left off about Cleveland and take us to just south of Leavenworth Road. The intersection won't be involved in this project. We'll evaluate that intersection at a different time. Another big piece that has been brought up several times through commission and through residents is parallel Parkway. Between 81st and 90th, there's been several utility cuts, several improvements to the area that have caused cuts throughout the road, and also some frost heaves, which is something we see around this area quite frequently. They've created a very rough travel through this major corridor that leads out to the Legends and back downtown. This is going to involve some mill and overlay, a lot of curb and gutter repair because the medians and curbs that were put in there are very old and have degraded. So when you redo the road and resurface it, it really makes sense to do the curbs. That way water doesn't continue to infiltrate and break up the road even more. And also some sidewalk improvements to close some of the gaps that are there. A big piece that's going to impact the public is some work that we're going to do around the lake. Currently, if anybody's driven out there recently, you know the roads, especially around some of the bends, are starting to degrade pretty bad. We haven't had a very good structure for maintaining these because there's just not the high visibility that a lot of major roads get. So we've established several funding sources that are going to allow us to do a couple things. In early 2018, you're going to see some deep patching, so isolated areas that are failing pretty bad. And then later on in the year, you're going to see surface treatments throughout the entire run of the park. We also wanted to highlight our annual street preservations projects, which we just did a large presentation for y'all last month or so. Not a lot to touch on, but just something to keep in mind. This graphic down here in the lower left indicates and shows the main purpose of what we're trying to do. These little green humps right in here, those are our maintenance options that we're looking at, our surface treatments, our crack seals, things like that, that are going to extend the life of our road and keep it at a much better quality and allow us to maintain them at a much more cost-effective rate. There are several bridges that we're also going to be tackling starting in 2018. The major three are actually along Holiday Drive from where it meets up with Inland, moving towards Lake Quivira. They're designated here and were phased out as Bridge 281, 283, and 282. And we broke those out into different years as to not cause too much disruption to traffic all at once. You can see from some of the pictures, you've got some edge failures that are causing it and making it difficult for a guardrail to stay attached. You've got visible utilities that just aren't very safe to have out there. And then in this lower right-hand corner, you can see how shallow this box is. Due to the topography of the land, the new features that are going to go in there are still going to be shallow, but we're looking at doing some hydraulic studies to better accommodate some of the water so it doesn't back up on the other side of the road or pond over the road and create safety hazards. There are three other storm structures that we're going to be addressing as well. One at 34th in Georgia as part of the continuation along that stream bank system, or that stream system. The same thing at 51st, just north of Cleveland. We've recently done 2 other boxes along that same creek system. And then the 11th Street bridge over Jersey Creek is actually the last and oldest bridge over Jersey Creek. So we're going to be replacing that with a more modern structure that will hold up for hopefully another 50 years at least. Some of the miscellaneous little projects that we've got going on that are very dear to several of us but don't really fit into true major transportation type categories are the levee trail system. We currently have phase 1 of the Caw Valley Levee Trail. That is from 12th to Kansas Avenue. We've got some security bollards set up to allow open access traffic. Phase 2 will then move us from 12th Street to 5th Street, moving east along the Kansas River. There are some other phases for the Caw Valley that we haven't really addressed yet, but we're working on an agreement with the Caw Valley Drainage District to make those happen. Then the Fairfax Levee will take us from Caw Point Park all the way around to some connection with the US 69 bridge that will allow pedestrians and bikes to go over toward the Parkville Riverside area and connect with their network, which will then link Parkville and KC Mo running through our area. The K32 whistle-free and quiet zone is currently in design. We've sent some information to Union Pacific, and they're reviewing some of the designs on those, so we're moving forward with that. And the fiber connectivity projects are a large piece that everybody had a lot of questions about when the budget was being looked at. The primary focus for the first few years is to complete and expand our current fiber network that's going to allow connection for the PD body cameras that have just been approved, and also allow us to do upgrades to traffic signals and get better cameras at those for future cataloging. I'm going to turn it over to Trenton Fogelsong here real quick so he can discuss some of the sewer maintenance and water pollution control projects that are going to be going on.
Thank you. Just going to run through these projects real quick. These are the more significant projects we have queued up for next year. Some of them are budgeted from 17 to 18. Some of them are budgeted and will kick off in 18. The sewer maintenance facility, which was approved a year or two ago, we're reevaluating some different site alternatives for that. The FID, I'm going to skip from this and go to some other slides, but you've got these in your packet, and I'll talk from that as far as the dollar amounts go. The FID force main project, is that the red dot? Yeah. Okay. So this is a project to look at our force mains that are 50 to 60 years old that pump all of our wastewater from the west side of the Kansas River over to the east side to Call Point for treatment. We've had several breaks on this line, so it's a pretty significant project to bypass all the flows around these lines to do this work. So we're going to line the blue segment, and then we're going to clean and inspect the force main that comes from AID, the river crossing, continues on down to the treatment plant, and then from CID down to the treatment plant too. So we're hoping that we'll find that those are in good condition. Won't have to be another major expense to come in and do any rehab on that. But it is significant with the bypass pumping involved. The SCADA project, which is about a $5 million project at this point, really just to modernize our SCADA system, which is Supervisory Control Data Acquisition. Nice anagram. Anyway, it lets us monitor all of our remote facilities and operate those as well, so that we can monitor what's going on within the collection system, also our wastewater pump stations, flood pump stations. I think that's on everybody's mind after all the rain we've had this year, and incidences have happened not only in our service area but in this whole region. The Wolcott treatment plant that you guys are somewhat familiar with, but again, that's going to be more than a $30 million investment out west, both for a new interceptor to run along the 435 corridor from Donahue Road down to the Wolcott area, as well as a Wolcott treatment plant, which is down on the existing site that the city owns. That's scheduled to be online by the end of 2021. So for the next 2 years, it'll be going through a design, land acquisition, and then 2 years of construction, roughly. CSO 19, which is our green infrastructure demonstration project. This is kind of a signature project that we've included in the plan that we submitted to EPA, where we're trying to demonstrate and leverage maximum community benefit for the investment we make in our combined sewer system. This figure just basically starts up at Jersey Creek, runs down through Waterway Park. It highlights several different opportunities we have that we'll be working through to really identify and firm those up. You know, one keynote is the interaction we'll have with the Healthy Campus as that moves forward. And we're also looking at a piece down to do some demonstration work down in conjunction with the Juvenile detention facility. We have our typical ongoing rehab. You know, it just can't hurt to emphasize again how much red pipe we have, which is basically 50-plus year pipe. I'll turn it back over to Brandon.
couple of the final projects we wanted to highlight are the buildings and logistics or facilities projects we're going to be looking at. We're, as part of making things in a more appropriate package, we're trying to cluster things in building aspects. So the Memorial Hall upgrades, you'll see this broken out in several line items throughout your budget, but we clustered it here. So we're estimating about $2.75 million to go in and redo the HVA system in Memorial Hall. That'll include chillers, AC condensers, boilers, basically everything we need to make this facility comfortable year-round. That way we can really get the most use out of it as opposed to what we've seen in the past. The other big piece for the building upgrades for Memorial Hall is some window replacements. We've currently been doing some as we need them, but we've realized the need to replace everything just because of the age of the windows. You've got some deteriorated sashes that are causing windows to potentially fall out under heavy winds and things like that. So this will create a better envelope for the building and make it more hospitable while people are inside. The other big one that's been on everybody's plate for the last couple years is the Juvenile Justice Center. This is really broken into two main pieces that you're going to see work being done. Starting in spring of this year, or late winter, early spring of 2018, you're going to see work done down here in this lower left-hand corner in this expanded parking area. The building just in front of that's actually Memorial Hall, so there's going to be a large parking lot built behind there to accommodate some of the parking that's getting used up where the new Justice Center site is, which is currently across from the Justice Center and behind the Court Services building. Anybody have any questions?
Board Member Bryant?
I have a question about the Leavenworth Road, Phase 2. When do we expect the utility portion to hit? You know, the reason I ask is on this first phase, it's probably going to be $5.5 to $6 million hit to the utility, and if the second phase, it says that estimated to be similar cost. So I'm kind of wondering, is it going to be closer to 2018 or closer to 2020?
When the construction starts on Phase 2?
When will the utility work be done? Yeah, when will the construction, because you back up 6 months and there's your utility.
Right. Well, from lessons learned, we're working with the BPU now to look at what it's going to take, so we're not up against the clock like we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that will be handled. It is my understanding that there will be less poles to move. This one, it won't be as bad as the first phase, but there will be some stuff that we have to deal with. But we are working on that as we move forward.
Is the plan to underground one side again?
It's my understanding is that we are going to approach it as it is going to be underground, like we're doing this last one, keeping in the same manner of that. So that's our game plan as now.
Okay. When do you think that, I know it's hard for you to probably guess, but when do you think that the board of directors of the BPU will be seeing the plan, so that, because we'll still have to approve it for our budget?
Right. So we're now just in the process of going ahead and looking at the next consultant for interviews for Phase 2. Once that gets on board, we will start the team and looking at all that. We're going to gather everybody in the room and develop that team that to make sure we get on schedule and get that stuff to stakeholders and everything on a timely manner, so you guys can review that and get those approved.
Okay.
Good questions. Commissioner Johnson, did you have questions?
I did, thank you. Looking at CSO 19, the green infrastructure slide, I see my Big 11 lake there. Mm-hmm. You talk about the water quality and improvements with a little more detail on that. I've heard, and I'll just tell you, I've heard from some pretty reliable sources that the water quality is not the best down there, to the extent that persons that may want to fish may or may not be, may not be advisable to do so. There's some discussion as to whether that's, the validity of that. I just kind of want to see what this is. Is this tying to that particular issue?
The CSO project in particular is really looking at the combined sewer overflows. Part of that will be looking at the Big 11 Lake as far as the water quality as a water body. It does currently have an impairment listed by the state, but there's really no stormwater going into the lake right now, and that's probably part of the impairment is there's no turnover of the water in there. And so they've added in some aeration in there to try to get the dissolved oxygen up.
Right.
So as we're going through this, part of what we're looking at is doing some targeted separation of the stormwater from the combined sewer system and trying to redirect it into Big 11 Lake so that we'll take advantage of the volume there in the lake too to reduce our combined sewer overflows, but also improve the turnover and water quality in the lake itself. It's just conceptual right now. We haven't really got into any specifics or details, but looking at the actual water quality in the pond will be part of that as we move forward.
Okay, that's very good. I'd like to be kept up to date, particularly on that item and whatever's going on. Obviously, with the Healthy Campus is right across the street from that. So, and is there a particular time frame that you all are estimating on this?
Well, we had targeted 19 and 20 for construction of this whole effort. You know, there's some movement on the Healthy Campus that might pull some of this forward a little bit. So that is something that we're looking at and trying to evaluate their schedule and our schedule and how we try to optimize that.
Very good. Just keep me abreast, particularly as it relates to that. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I would just add a quick comment to that section, and that is that we are currently right at the beginning of the Northeast Master Planning effort. And so with this being located in the Northeast area, we want to make sure that we're staying in communication with not only the commissioners and the planning department, but the stakeholders in the area about whatever is going to transpire here. So just a thought. Board Member Bryant, you had another item?
Yeah, on the miscellaneous project slide, the K32 whistle-free quiet zone, you know, it seems like I remember we had a presentation about this. It's been quite a while back. And they talked about the cost, which to me seemed kind of excessive for what it was going to be, especially when it was brought up at the time that just because this is done doesn't mean that they can't blow their whistles. It's still, no matter what, at the end of the day, it's the engineer's choice on whether or not they want to blow a whistle, if they feel any need whatsoever. So I'm just kind of curious, did we get that resolved or something where we feel pretty confident that if we spend this money that it will be a truly quiet zone?
Well, you are correct that the UP reserves the right to blow their horn whenever they want to when it feels for needs of safety for the public and their engineer and the train. Yes, our goal is to make sure that we're putting in the best safety measure possible to allow that train to move through there freely without having to blow its horn. The budget has come down considerably from when we first started looking at it. We were able to use some different safety measures in these areas that fit the existing signals so they don't have to be replaced. One of the biggest things and concerns was maintenance. With these safety measures that are being put in, there won't be any maintenance that's needed, that's required by UP, so that's a plus. So yes, you are correct. They still have the right to do so, but they will not if they feel that it's a safe environment.
Yeah, the other one on that was, it seemed to me I'm remembering it correctly, that for this to be applicable on each egress up to the tracks, it has to be divided. It has to be built in a way that someone can't turn around and go around it. And some of the roads were set up that wasn't real conducive to putting that in, that expanding, because they're narrow, the ones across the tracks, and some of the, especially as you move farther west down K32, some of the roads aren't as wide to be able to put a divider in between.
Right, so what we're doing is the road will be kind of added onto with some curbing in that area to allow for the median to be put in place. So there will be a wide enough travel way the median will go all the way up to where the arm comes down, not allowing for anybody to be able to bypass that.
Okay.
Commissioner Kane or Markley, any questions or comments on CMIP?
So, I get a lot of public works stuff that gets sent your guys' way, and I always appreciate your willingness to look into the issues that constituents are bringing forward. What do we do with that information? Sometimes you go out and you look at something and you fix it for me, or you tell me I can do this one thing, but it won't solve the problem forever. Are we keeping that information somewhere? Are we logging the problems that we're getting and maybe not able to resolve at the time? I'm just, as a constituent, I want people to know that their complaint doesn't go into a black hole. So I'd like to know what happens to all that information, and if we get enough complaints on one street, does that put up a red flag for us?
Right, so we do take the calls and complaints that come in and we record them. And we definitely try to make the effort to circle back with however the call came back in. We go out and do our due diligence, take pictures, make contact with homeowners, do what we can to look at that and see what can be done. If there's things that can be done, we will try to do them. If we see things that maybe a homeowner could do to alleviate some of the issues, we will try to work with them on that as well. But they don't just go into a black hole. I mean, we do keep track of areas that are having flooding or road issues and stuff like that. So we keep track of that. And it gets, like we're doing our stormwater master plan, and that information, all these areas that we get calls on flooding and rain and stuff like that, will be given to the consultant to review and put into their model.
Thank you, and like I said, I appreciate the many emails you respond to from myself on behalf of my constituents, and you guys do a good job getting on top of that. But sometimes things can't be resolved right then, so I just want people to know it doesn't mean that you've ignored them, it just means maybe it can't happen at that moment.
As part of the asset management integration with Lucity, our asset inventory system, every call that we're getting currently from 311 and that comes to us is getting logged into that. And most of the calls are actually getting tied to an asset, whether it be a storm pipe, a street, something like that. That way we can run those reports and find those high frequency calls or those high frequency things that we can figure out how to program and address appropriately.
That's good news. Commissioner Kane.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything, but the Hutton Road to Leavenworth Road, since we know the fire station is going to be in that location, I think you guys need to come up with a plan to see how a big truck is going to go around some sort of circle. Since I don't want a circle, I'd rather have a stoplight. It's something we might want to talk about between now and the time the fire station gets built, correct?
I totally agree.
Yes, right?
Yes, but I liked the idea that you did bring up the circle, so it lets me know that you still think that it might be possible that it could go in there if need be.
You better write down the date, brother, because we disagree wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah, we know with the fire station going in there, with this new project going in there, that it's going to be something that we have to start looking at proactively now to see what's going to happen. So we've been.
Tell me who first brought up the roundabout.
Say that again?
Could you please tell me the first person to bring up a roundabout? I want to start somewhere.
I don't think he works here anymore.
If he did, you wouldn't tell me.
No, I wouldn't.
I kind of wanted to ask a couple questions, and I'll start with Hutton Road there. And I agree with what Commissioner Kane is saying about the future building and growth that's going to occur there. But my question is, what are we doing that's $4 million on Hutton Road? That's from Cleveland to not even Leavenworth Road. That sounds like an extraordinarily high price tag.
And I could agree with you on that. What we've done is it's been a project that's been kind of started and stopped, and in that process we've had to come up with some different designs because of finding out some different utilities have been were put in that had kind of pushed the budget. So Unfortunately, us not getting it in a timely manner is kind of what has pushed that to, and that's just kind of a grown budget over time. I mean, it's not as bad as you would think, because there are some different things that we're having to do with utilities and sanitary and stuff like that. That puts that budget to that number.
Okay.
So it's just not road or anything else that we're just looking at.
I look at it, I shouldn't probably, but I look at it in comparison to Leavenworth Road, Phase 2 at 16 million, and it's 25% of that cost for, okay, I'll leave it there. So my other, go ahead.
The big piece that's going to take a lot for Hutton Road is the fact that this road was built to the old county standards.
Wow.
So in order to improve this to a suitable matter, we have to take it down to below sub-base and restabilize that, recompact everything, put in the new storm drainage system, which isn't there currently. And as Brent mentioned, the utility complications have wound up quite a bit as well.
Well, and I appreciate that. Everything, like you said, that's an old road, and we have to do everything to it. And when we're done, it's going to be really nice. So we have that. And that area deserves a nice road when it's all said and done. The other question I have is to the Wolcott wastewater treatment plant. So just a question for me to understand better. I heard you say on land we owned, and then later I heard you say land we're going to acquire. So we don't own all the land we need for this?
Sorry, that probably was confusing. The plant itself is on land that we own, and that's what's depicted here. It's the interceptor, the gravity sewer line that will run down the 435 corridor all the way from Donahue Road down. It's a little over 2 miles.
Oh, so we have to acquire.
It's right away. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That makes sense. That clears that up. The only other thing I have is just a comment that I am appreciative of what I think is a good collaborative effort with communication all around on the Memorial Hall upgrades, knowing that we're building a justice complex that's basically moving daytime parking for people like me that work down here, but creating event parking for Memorial Hall. And then along with that, we have these additional amenity upgrades at Memorial Hall. So when you wrap all of that up in one package, you've got a really nice event space with parking, all because I think I'm seeing staff and departments working together and talking about how to make a place a really nice place. And so I just wanted to say I really appreciate that. I'm sure that's what happened. And it's going to make Memorial Hall an even more desirable place than it is right now to have lovely, lovely affairs. And so I really appreciate that. And I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have any other questions? Melissa.
Just wanted to follow up a little bit on what Trenton was talking about with some of the green infrastructure in the downtown, and to state that it is a study, so they're actually trying to figure out, and Trenton, jump if I'm wrong, the feasibility in these different locations that we've identified. So they may or may not work, but the concept is we want to start looking at them. We have access to some property, so we don't have to do what we're doing with the sewer interceptor out west, looking at how to do it smarter, not harder, and things of that nature, and what can become assets or enhancements to build off the healthy campus, to encourage, a better sense of appearance and place and safety in the Northeast. So definitely as they start moving through this, that conversation's already occurred. Staff's very keenly aware in Public Works about what's happening with the Northeast Master Plan, and as they start to delve into these a little more specifically, I think some of the stuff that's further south is some of the stuff we were looking at probably earlier on than the stuff that's further north. Is that true on that map? The 1, 2, 3, 4, we may have a little more information on or need.
Yeah, it's a dynamic plan. I mean, this was a concept that was put together probably a year and a half ago. So some of these probably aren't even relevant now. But yeah, the idea is that we would be coordinating, and we are, as we move forward, with parks and the Parks Master Plan and SOARS and the Northeast Master Plan as it develops, the Healthy Campus as it becomes more real, and the Juvenile Detention Center. I mean, those are the ones that we've seen and we're aware of, but it's real adaptive, and we're really looking to leverage the resources we have, which is vacant lots and some of the parks that we already have out in that area, and other reinvestments as they occur, like the Healthy Campus. So even though we've shown specific locations on here, they don't necessarily have to be right there. This was one concept, well, several concepts on one plan.
So when you say it's a study, is the study already underway right now, or is it something that will be done in the future?
Well, it's I don't know if the study maybe is the right word. It's an evolving effort where we're looking at opportunities, and it'll evolve as we move forward. You know, when we hit on the different options we have to comply with the Clean Water Act with EPA, you know, the green solutions are the ones that tend to give us the maximum community benefit. And so we're looking at how we can maximize the use of the green infrastructure to comply with that as we go forward.
So we look at it as a community enhancement effort while solving a engineering design problem.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the goal.
Thank you for that. You've told us that before, but hearing it many times is good for us. And I mean that not sarcastically. We have to hear these things often.
Well, it's a lot to consume in one evening, but I think the concept of trying to work with community groups, certainly kind of the founding principle of what we're doing with the Northeast Master Plan. As we get further into the planning process, this engagement effort will probably need to come a little further out of the box, so.
All right, well, this is very good. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on this presentation? This is an information-only item, and we thank you very much for all of the effort. That does conclude this meeting, and we appreciate your attendance. We are adjourned from this meeting. We have police graduation in the commission chambers at 6 p.m. Administration and Human Services will convene right back here on the 5th floor immediately after the police graduation, but no sooner than 6:45 p.m. We are adjourned.